Alright everyone, welcome back again di podcast Dejet. Dan kali ini kita sudah berada di satu section. Gila, gue sampai speechless loh buat bikin opening di channel gue sendiri, karena di sebelah sini sudah ada Kevin Perch tentu saja. Dan kita langsung ngobrol aja sama Kevin Perch, of course, from himself. Hello Perch. Hello. I'm good. How are you doing? I'm good. Great, because you're so fantastic with this with that outfit right now. Okay, so before we start talking about Dota, of course, I'm gonna talk about your entire career, of course. And what do you want me to call you? Like just Kevin or just Perch? Sure. All right, Captain. And so first of all, I want to say thank you to you because you allow me to do this interview with you. I mean, it's an honor for me to do this interview. So let's start with your career. When exactly your career esport journey began, please? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If they were available. All you could see is how much mana they had. So you had to like communicate a lot. So it was
Mm-hmm.
very difficult to like learn to know what was good meta. So and there wasn't any matchmaking as well. So I wrote the Welcome Dota USUF guide, and then later on that year I ended up getting fired from the
Mm-hmm.
job, unfortunately. But I had already got the idea of making YouTube videos for Dota, and after I got fired, I applied to cast at Ghost Gamers, and I
Okay.
got hired as a volunteer to do that. So that was kind of the beginning. Was that I had already been making YouTube videos, but now I easily got a gig there. And already there was Gods was already working at Ghost Gamers at the time as
Mm-hmm.
a volunteer caster. So connected with him. And then as time went on, we ended up hiring What Is Hip, who formerly CEO of Chaos, and also Shiver was one of the other people that got hired on Ghost Gamers after me. So that was all in 2011 before Dota 1, before TI 1 happened. So I've been around for a while in the Dota scene.
Okay. Okay. So, um, based on Wikipedia, your role right now in Dota 2 scene as a talent is as a caster and also analyst. Am I right?
Yep, that's right. And
Okay.
then I do Weatherman too, which is still an analyst, but yeah.
Okay. So, my next question is: do you remember the first game that you ever cast? Like, can you tell me the story?
Um, there isn't like a, I mean, there's lots of firsts, right? Like the first time I recorded YouTube videos,
Mm-hmm.
that's one thing. I can't remember those exact moments, but I mean, I remember some things about it. Like I was very awkward. I was recording in the same room as some of my friends, some of my roommates at the time, so I
Mm-hmm.
felt really nervous and conscious about it. I used to have this like really shitty tech setup that like pulled video out of my video card to go into a Hauppauge HD PVR, and then it went back into I don't know, something else to capture it. So it was like my audio. And when I first started, I used to like double my audio on my computer because I didn't know a way to get the audio. Like
I
there wasn't
got it.
like XSplit and OBS back then.
Okay.
So it was like really janky how I recorded basically. So
Okay.
like all that early stuff was like it was so long ago and so janky that it's kind of hard to remember now in some ways. But I remember being really nervous for my first like pro casting. There was
Mm-hmm.
only like two lobby slots, so like if either Toby or Blot wanted to cast the game, I just
Mm-hmm.
got kicked out of the lobby because I wasn't as big as them. So
Wow.
so there was stuff like that because there's only two observer slots in Dota 1,
I
I
know.
believe. So yeah, if you weren't big enough, you got kicked out basically. So I remember lots of stuff streaming on Own 3D, streaming on Justin TV. I used to cast like NA pubs at Dota Cash, which was like a popular website to hosting pubs. Basically, it's kind of like Garena, basically. So yeah, did lots of old stuff back in the day.
Okay. So your first partner is your roommates back then.
My first partner, what do you mean?
The one that you trying to do the recording part, something like that. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't. They weren't working with me. It was like we
Oh.
all had our computers in the same room.
Oh,
So I
okay.
felt
I'm
very
sorry.
conscious recording because I'm sitting there like trying to, emote and be exciting
I got
and
it. I got it. I thought. I
and I
thought.
felt nervous about it.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
thought he was your first partner to do the casting thing.
No.
Okay.
My first casting partners. I mean, it
Who
was
is it?
probably like I don't remember the first ones.
Uh-huh.
I used to
It's all right.
cast with this woman whose tag was Prove Attitude.
Mm-hmm.
I used to cast with her at Dota Cash all the time.
Mm-hmm.
She was fun to work with. And I used to cast with God sometimes. And Charms. There's like a couple people in the Ghost of Gamers scene that I casted with, but I don't remember the first one. Can't
Okay.
remember exactly.
It's okay. So after you're doing the first game casting back then, back in the Dota 1, I believe. Yes.
Yep.
Okay. And how about your first time as being as an analyst?
It took a while for me to get into like working events actually. Other than like working TI2, I got hired as an interviewer, which was not my forte, but it was still fun to be there. I was really happy I got to go. I didn't actually start doing panel work or like actual tournament work until probably like 2014 maybe, other than online stuff. Like I had done online stuff, but we didn't really have like traditional panels
Mm-hmm.
on the online stuff like early Dota 1, Dota 2 days. It's basically just casters would do everything. Um, so I think the one of the first events I worked was I think it was technically a DreamHack, but it was in Romania. With, Gods and LD. I think it was just maybe there's a fourth, but I can't remember. But I think that was one of the first times I did panel work. But then after that, it all kind of like started falling together. I got to do the newbie stream at TI4,
Ah, yeah.
and then shortly after, there was a lot more lands and a lot more talent got invited. So I started just getting into that repetition and working events that way. So kind of a mix of things. But yeah, I think about 2014 was when I started working panels
All right.
more traditionally.
Okay. Last question about memories. Do you remember the first Valve official event that you worked with?
Would have been the first Valve event I worked. It
Yes.
was TI2 for sure. I
TI2.
mean, I watched TI1 online,
Mm-hmm.
which was really exciting because it was like the first time we got to see Dota 2.
Mm-hmm.
But TI2 was definitely the big one, and it was very magical. There was a Benaroya Hall, so the hall was really beautiful. Everybody there was like really awkward and nerdy, including myself. I remember like it was like my first experience being famous, kind of, because I was basically in an event where everybody knew who I was, and it
Okay.
was like I'd make eye contact with people and they would always look away. It was, but you didn't really get swarmed for autographs or anything because everyone was still kind of figuring stuff out. Like it was still kind of weird and new.
Okay.
So it was fun. But yeah, there weren't that many people there. By TI4, Benaroya was like jam packed. There was tons of people. I'm sorry, was it TI3 was the last Benaroya?
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember. I think it was TI3 was the last
23, I
Benaroya.
believe. Yeah.
Yeah, TI4 was where they went to Key Arena, but it got
Yep.
a lot busier the next year. The lobby was always packed, that kind of thing. But it was just interesting thinking about like the old days when it first started for sure. But it was just very collaborative and fun. And I like the craziest thing about TI2 actually, thinking back, was that group stages of TI were played at Valve's offices,
Mm-hmm.
and you could just go watch the games. So like
Okay.
you'd have this pro team sitting there playing, and sometimes there was a couple rooms where they had them playing in the same room. So you'd have like a Chinese. I watched IG, I believe, playing against MTW, Cinderen's old team,
Okay.
and they were in the same room, separated by 20 feet. And anybody that was working at the event could just go walk in the room. So you have
Okay.
teams playing pro game, like big ass games, group stage, and I could just walk and sit behind them and watch them play, and it wasn't a big deal.
Okay.
Nowadays, like obviously that stuff's locked down. You can't hear their comms.
Yep.
Their opponents definitely can't hear them. You can't have people nearby. There's like lots of rules now, but back then it was kind of the Wild West, so very different from what it is now.
So there's a lot of difference between the old event organizer manage the team between team and another team compared to right now, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's completely different. It's like very professional now.
Okay,
Yeah.
so there's a lot of people around the world trying to be you, like as a caster and also analyst. Can you give us or them a wise word to how to start a career as a caster or analyst? Is it hard to actually start esport journey nowadays?
It is. It's always kind of been hard, but the simplest way to look at it is that you have to be better than almost everybody else, and that's difficult, obviously. It helps to be high MMR, it helps to be knowledgeable. You have to know how to talk, you have to know how to fill time, you have to have better voice inflection than what I normally have, generally. I'm lucky now because I put in so much hard work over the decade that it's easier for me to retain my position while still balancing life stuff. But you really do have to grind a lot, and you have to get really good. And then you also have to get noticed a bit. It's not as hard nowadays because there are still people that want content creators and streamers, there's usually a lot of games to cover for a lot of examples. Maybe not so much for DPC, that was kind of locked down, but there's always stuff that you can do to get eyeballs on you and to get more experience in. And I think the other good advice I have is just make sure that you need like some VOD channel ideally, whether that's your Twitch stream with VODs or you have YouTube examples, just so you can show somebody some of your work when you're asking to do work for them. But yeah, and then you just have to keep growing and try to get a cut or try to get a gig. But I don't know, it's been a long time since I had to do much of that stuff, so it's a little bit hard for me to give advice. But ultimately, you just have to be good and work really hard and be better than most other people. Otherwise, you're not going to get gigs.
Okay.
Yeah.
So most importantly, I believe is don't give up on the first place, right?
Well, I would say be realistic about how hard you have to work to make it, and you might still not make it anyways.
Okay.
Because you're competing with so many more people. Like, for example, I haven't worked that many events in the last 2 years because there's even more competition than there used to be. Because there's a lot of people that played professionally that aren't playing pro anymore, and now they're learning how to be good panelists. Like, level of knowledge, for example. So if you think you can be better than those guys, on panel wise, then sure, you can still make it. But I'm not saying like go all in, because you have to be realistic, but you do have to work really hard to make it as a caster or panelist.
Okay. So my last question about career is, are you satisfied with what you accomplished right now, Perch?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I can't help but think that I'm happy with what I've accomplished so far. Sometimes I worry and know that I'm stagnating a little bit, but it's like as you get older, there's other things to balance in life, so it's harder to grind as hard on Dota, for example. And there's other things, like I'm just not as good at Dota as former pros. It's that simple, you know. I'm never going to be a pro player again. Even when I did, it was a little bit short term, you know. So yeah, I mean, everybody can always want more, but I can't help but be happy with what I've accomplished so far. And I just want to like make this keep working as long as I can.
Okay.
So I don't have to get a real job, you know.
Okay, so I'm happy for you about your career. And now let's talk about Dota, of course. And as we all know, we're approaching the first major in 2021, right? In Singapore. And the talent list also already comes out. The talent list, a lot of good names, but I do believe I don't see your name on that list panel. Is that true?
Yep, that's right. Yeah, I didn't get invited. Correct.
Okay, you're not getting invited, but I think it's okay. But because we're talking about Singapore major, there's already announcement that there will be no offline viewer. What are you thinking about the situation right now? Like the first event offline in Southeast Asia and this pandemic situation, and no offline viewer. Do you have any thought about that?
Yeah, it sucks for sure, but I understand completely why they're doing it. In my opinion, I mean, first of all, it's logistically already difficult. I don't know. My understanding is that the cases of COVID in Singapore are very low, but I don't know what their restrictions are. Maybe they're already making a big gamble. Think about the fact that I think the players are only arriving like 2 or 3 days before the event starts.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. And if that's the case, you're basically taking people from across the world, some of which still have COVID hotspots.
Yes.
And now you're putting them into an event. If you had a live studio audience, and some of those players had COVID, it could literally be ground zero for spreading COVID in the region. So like there are issues. Like the only other possibility would be like bringing players 2 weeks early, quarantining them, making absolute sure nobody has it, and then you can have a studio audience maybe. But like that's really unfair for the players, especially the ones that get bottom 6 or whatever, because a lot of the teams that go to the event and don't qualify, don't do well, don't even get paid for being at the event. So like I think it makes perfect sense. It sucks, but I think it's also good that we're going to finally have all the players in one place to have a real LAN. And because ultimately the Dota is what's most important. So I think we can wait a little bit longer for a LAN, in my opinion. And who knows, maybe the US will be the best place to have LANs in the future, because I saw a tweet yesterday saying that there's going to be enough vaccines for every adult in America to be vaccinated by about July.
Wow.
And we get that because we are a country that has a lot of money, I guess. Not responsible about COVID, but we are willing to spend the money to get the vaccine. So who knows? Maybe lands in the US will make sense.
Hopefully.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
Okay, fingers crossed. Okay, let's talk about the DPC first season in your eyes right now? Are you happy with the system that Valve gave us to us for the whole DVC season? And do you have any reason if you say yes, I agree, I'm happy, or if you say no?
I generally like it, yes. I'm glad it finally happened. I do wish that Valve started this in like August or something, but realistically, I'm sure it was very difficult. They were, they basically spend, I know they have a team that spends all year prepping for TI. TI gets canceled, and now they have to pivot, and pivoting is really hard, especially if you have a smaller staff like Valve does. I don't know how many employees like Riot has, for example, but they have a lot of employees, so they have a lot more manpower to get stuff done, basically, whereas Valve does not. So it took them longer to pivot, which is unfortunate because it hurt the scene for sure. But now that it's here, I generally like the format. I like the fact that there aren't 4 games going on every second of the day. I like that it's generally only one. Obviously, there's some negatives, like sometimes the EU region had to play really late at night, and that wasn't fair. So it's not perfect, of course, but I like the fact that I could feel like I could tune in and catch basically. I basically watched like a decent amount of 2 regions. Well, CIS included, I guess, because I casted those 2. But I caught like 2 to 3 regions.
Okay.
If it was like big tournaments where there's like 10 games a day per season or 10 series per day, then I'm not going to watch enough of the games. I'm going to feel left out and therefore not checking into it. So
yeah.
I like the fact that it was slower personally. I know teams didn't like the fact that they had to keep top form for 6 weeks. Normally it's like they have these like 2-week sprints. But I think from the viewership side, it was definitely better than the past. Criticisms, though, I think that it is unfair that teams going to the major don't get paid no matter what. I get that they've already been paid for the league system stuff, like doing well in the league gives them money, and qualifying gives them DPC points, which gets them to TI. But I wish there was at least some money to the teams that go to Singapore and lose, because that's still 2 weeks of their life. Just for a chance to get prize money, a chance to qualify, which doesn't feel right to me.
Okay.
So I think I don't like that aspect of it. Okay. But I get that there is a lot of money spread across the other regions. So, but then there's some other small quibbles, but those are the main ones.
Okay.
That I don't like.
Okay. So we're moving to the first major again. Let's see. We have a secret, and China team still to be decided because they're still not finished. Southeast Asia having a Fnatic, Virtus Pro from CIS, North America, represented by Evil Geniuses, of course, Beast Coast coming from South America. Do you have any opinion about the list that we're having for the invited playoff? Do you happy with the list?
Yeah, I think the list looks really good. I mostly watched EU and CIS, but I can say for sure that all the EU teams are really good. It was kind of a heartbreaker because there were so many good teams that some of them kind of just missed out on making the major because of the fact that there's only so many slots. And then obviously Viking got kicked down to Division 2, which is a little unfortunate. Yeah, maybe the Div 2, Div 1 tiebreaker thing. Maybe there needs to be like a breaker system where Viking could have played against the teams going up or something, because now they're kind of in a weird spot. But regardless, I think the system looks good on paper for sure. Maybe it'll perform very differently, but I think it's good for it's certainly good for getting some prize money into the hands of like Division 2 players, for example, and as a function to seed people into the majors. I think it's cool too. So I don't know. I like it. I think it's going to give us a lot more information than we normally have when we have majors. Usually there's like qualifier tournaments and then they're just kind of over. And now we've had like long periods of history of watching teams play that we can then use to make better commentary and better analysis when the tournament actually happens. So I think that'll be cool. I'm looking forward to watching.
Sure. And for the group stage, I don't know you want to talk about it or not, because we're having an alliance. China still to be decided. Neon Esport, Natus Fincer, Quincy Crew, and also Thunder Predator. Do you have any opinion about the group stage invitation?
I haven't watched all of the regions detailedly, but those all sound like very viable group stage level teams.
All right.
Yeah, it makes sense to me.
Okay, so the wildcard that give me more excitement, because there's a Team Nigma in the wildcard, of course, because we know XTI champions, Team Liquid, with all the big name behind it. Southeast Asia, of course, get represented by T1, and also CIS represented by AS Monaco Gambit, of course, but no Team OG. what is really happening with the European team right now?
So there was just a lot of really good teams in Europe, I
I
think is the
know.
way to describe it. OG's not on perfect form right now for sure. They still are playing their style, which I think is commendable because that is
Mm-hmm.
how they make magic happen basically. But
Yes.
Secret lost 0 series, so that's one of the 4 slots. And then
Yes.
Alliance played above average, so
Mm-hmm.
they got the second slot. And then you just have to have this 3-way headbutting for between Liquid and Nigma and OG. And OG was the team that ended up losing that one. So they definitely could have, if they just won like one more game in a
Mm-hmm.
couple places, they would have been the team that makes it through for sure, and then Liquid wouldn't be at the majors. So you can't. It's just that OG just underperformed in a couple of situations. They threw a couple games here and there, and it ultimately led to them losing and not making the cut. So it's not shameful. They were the 5th best team in Europe,
Okay.
which is still impressive with
Which is
the stacked
impressive.
lineup. So
Of
it
course.
sucks because it would have been fun to see OG there, but it happens. They just weren't on top form.
Yeah, but like after Arna leaving the TI winning lineup for the OG, they changed the lineup with the player that also good for me. Like they're having a lot of big name like Mid One, of course, and Ramses also joining, I believe. Sorry, a lot of other name.
Saksa.
Yeah, Saksa, the joining the OG, but the format is not that good. Is it OG still need a time to make a connection between the player, or it's just not working out? Perch.
Um, I think they still have potential. I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if they change roster, but I don't think they're going to. I think that all the players that they have are incredible,
Mm-hmm.
and I expect them to improve. I think they just need to work a couple things out. Maybe they're just doing stuff a little bit too weird. Maybe like there's mid one built Mage Slayer a lot of times in games where it was kind of like, oh, they still won, but it was kind of like that was weird. Nobody else is doing that. Sure, maybe you're doing stuff a little bit too wacky here. And I feel like that's one of their strengths, but it also loses you games sometimes. So they're just not as crisp and clean as some other teams are right now, I think. And that's what ended up hurting them when they lost some of those games. I think that's all it is.
Okay.
It just happens sometimes.
All right.
So, yeah.
My last few question will be about Southeast Asia Dota. And do you see like SEA Dota, Southeast Asia Dota is as big as other region, Perch?
In what way? I mean, it's
Uh,
obviously massive in terms of the amount of people that play.
Yeah, I mean like the team that competing in Southeast Asia as big as team that competing in Europe maybe like the organization, the professional organization, not as much as in Europe or comparing to the skill of the player right now in Southeast Asia and other region maybe.
I mean, they obviously have incredible skill in Southeast Asia as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's no surprise, especially they have a huge amount of players, so it's natural that there's going to be really highly talented people that make it through. I mean, they've had some great results at TI before, but not that consistent. It's usually C teams usually do. There's a couple that streak through and do really well, but they don't always get close to the top, obviously. I don't necessarily know why that is.
Mm-hmm.
And they have the potential to win. Who knows what it is? It could be mentality. It could be, I don't know, maybe they lose focus. I'm not
Okay.
sure. I don't know what it is, but
Okay.
there's excellent teams there. They just don't always quite go as hard as some of the other regions, unfortunately.
Okay, because when I talk with Capitalist,
Mhm.
he said that Southeast Asia is just lack of a leadership person, like a leadership that European have, like Papi, and if we back again in 2017, we have
Mm.
fear on North America, something like that, on or PPD, something like that. Is that true that Southeast Asia lack of a leadership person right now, Bert, in your opinion?
I mean, I sort of agree. It's easy to say that because I don't disagree with Cap because it's easy to point at these guys that keep winning, like Puppy or Kuro or whatever else, and say like,
Yes.
oh, they're just obviously very good captains,
Mhm.
and that's clear, and you can see it by their personalities as well. They're very like slow thinking or fast thinking, but they're very deliberate and careful, and it seems like they have drafts figured out. And to be the best at a tournament, you have to be number one. You have to have the best strategies. You have to be able to pivot. Maybe we don't see that as much in the C region, and I don't necessarily know why that is. But it's also difficult to answer that and say that without being inside the teams
Mhm.
at times and understanding the dynamics. And obviously, cultures are very different across the world, and maybe the way that the culture there works, maybe it makes being that kind of like leader more difficult. Maybe it's less common. It's hard to say. And I wouldn't be able to. I'm only speculating. I don't know for sure. But maybe there's something like that happens that hurts the region or something. But it could be lots of other things. It could be the economic situation.
Okay.
It could be like how strong the team support is. Do they get good salaries? And therefore don't have to worry about other things. It could be so many different things that cause it. And so I just don't want to speculate too hard. I guess I did speculate a lot, but it's hard for me to make a conclusive decision about what it is. Yeah.
Okay. Talking about hurting people, that we already heard when there's a lot of international event, or even all official event from Valve in Europe, in North America, something like that. I know North America is the base of Valve in himself. And my question is, what makes Southeast Asia didn't get same spotlight for having international event, Perch?
You have lagged.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me? Kevin, are you there?
I think you're caught up.
Okay.
I'm here.
Okay.
If you froze immediately after you said,
because
my question is what?
My question is, what makes Southeast Asia Dota didn't get same spotlight for holding international event, Perch?
Oh, why do you think there's less lands?
Yeah, there's less lands in Southeast Asia.
Mix of things, probably. It's more like a lot of the big esports companies are based in Europe, for example. So basically PGL, ESL, DreamHack are the big three, basically. So it's natural that they're going to generally stick to their region. They have ransom lands in Southeast Asia, but generally those like decreased a little bit. I think one of the issues was also political instability in the Philippines, at least. Like I know that Duarte was seen as kind of a loose wrench, that like with the whole like drug thing, the drug related murders. I know that made some players uncomfortable. So I think there was some issues with that as well. That kind of like shut down tournaments in the region. Yeah. And the only other organizer that focused a lot in Southeast Asia was GESC, and unfortunately their business went under trying to juggle everything, and therefore a lot of people didn't get paid. So basically just difficult to run in the first place, and it just hasn't happened too much since then, unfortunately. So I think those are all the big issues, unfortunately. But it's fun. I really liked going to LANs in Southeast Asia because the fans were so passionate, and some of the best emotional moments happen there for sure. But hopefully more tournaments in the future. As
you feel by yourself when you visit Indonesia, Jakarta, when the GSC, you feel the crowd, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody's more passionate. They scream more. And it just makes the Dota more fun to watch. Yeah.
Do you miss LAN even so much, Spurge?
I miss them for sure. I wouldn't say so much. I definitely miss them. There's good and bad things. Like I was really fortunate to be able to work remote for DPC season 1. I liked that because when I'm at an event, it kind of like consumes all of what you're doing, and it ends up being more stressful because you're sleeping in a hotel, the food you're eating is different, and there's stuff like at home that you're behind on, because you're gone for 2 weeks. So the fact that I was able to be home and still like manage my life while working was really nice. So there's good and bad things about LANs, and obviously I miss hanging out with people. That was the big negative of not getting to go in person, was that I miss seeing all my Dota talent friends. But so yeah, positives and negatives. But LANs are definitely the best place to watch Dota with people. It's just the emotion is strong and it's fun.
Okay, so that's it. I believe my question already get the answer from you. You already told your story about your career, your opinion about the Dota season right now, and I think thank you, Perch, for your time. Of course, sorry to interrupting your day by sending your email or something like that.
No, it's fine. No problem at all.
So
happy to be here.
I just wanna say good luck on your next casting game, something like that, and goodbye, Perch. Bye.
All right. Thanks a lot. Bye.
Thanks a lot.